All right, so this week's article topic is about thinking out loud, the why and the science behind verbal processing. I think a majority of my clients, I think it's fair to say about 75% of my clients, high verbal processors, probably partially because I also am a high verbal processor and I come from a family with a few high verbal processors. And what that means is that you use communication, outward language, to actually process and think, which is kind of dynamic and incredible. So in my blog, I talk about that process. I had a really in-depth conversation with AI because I realized I couldn't even, as I was reading more about it, just through articles on the web, it wasn't even starting to capture everything I was thinking that needed to be noted. So that's when I started to add a little more and wound up with a conversation with AI that I highly recommend that you check out. There's a link down below to make sure you can enjoy it. In that article below, you'll also see some really good information about how the brain processes when we're speaking out loud and why that works, how our auditory brings that in and brings it to a different part of our brain and process it, how the frontal lobe, where our memory is, working memory is, how that gets overloaded. And so by verbally processing, we're actually able to unload some of that information. I also go into much deeper conversations about silent witnessing, which is another way of talking about body doubling, which again, really interesting and very helpful. Also, learning, I list in there a variety of ways you can add additional tools to how you're processing verbally. So sometimes there are just moments where that's not an opportunity, you aren't able to get in touch with somebody, something like that. But you need to process through something, you need to make a decision, something along that line. There are some great tools, from journaling to mindful meditation, doing PQ reps, something that I teach clients, working on sticky notes and using that as a visual thinking process. All of those are great tools that can help do that verbal processing when you don't have somebody maybe around that allows you to process through things, because that isn't always efficient or effective. There can't be a silent listener around all the time for us. Another thing that I got into, and part of why I purposely did this article using AI, was that I did use it in the manner of having some conversations. Like, I started out purposefully verbally saying, I want to create an article about this. I want it to be interactive. I want it to have some visuals. I explained what I wanted from it. And then back and forth, we processed through that. And that's part of why I did it in the manner that I did. I wanted to demonstrate how useful and where AI is coming from and able to do things to help with that verbal processing for people, because it's not, what I find is a lot of clients feel ashamed that they verbal process, that they're always talking. And they also know that it can be very overwhelming for their significant others. I was trying to find the right words to say that with so much grace and love. But being married to someone who is a high verbal processor can be challenging for someone, because to try and be their sounding board all the time can be a lot and very overwhelming. And so having alternatives, having additional options, oh my gosh, creates so much freedom for people. And that's what coaching is all about, is I get to help people have more freedom, have more confidence in themselves. And what I find with a lot of verbal processors is they feel bad about who they are and how they process, instead of embracing that and working with it more. So that's my great reminder. I highly recommend you check out the article. It has way more details, but I decided to do this without a teleprompter. And so you're stuck with whatever my memory's got today. And today I worked on this for hours. It was so exciting and I knew you'd love it. So go check out the article, enjoy the imagery. There's a bunch of links in there. This is a really awesome topic, and please share it, leave comments, all of that, because that just helps other people grow and expand too, and I really appreciate it. I'm JoyGenea, International Neurodiversity Coach. Thanking you so much for your time and looking forward to next week's conversation. We're going to have some fun with this verbal processing. I've got a few more blogs ahead. Thanks. Bye now.